All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion. Team Builder. Team Builder is a software for firefighter-specific tactical strength coaches around the world. It is used to prepare first responders and rescuers to meet the demands of the job. Our powerhouse platform provides coaches with an elevated experience when it comes to program development, data tracking, and staying connected with users. Our software allows coaches to individualize training and quickly track exertion of each user to make informed training decisions. Head to teambuilder.com, teambuilder.com, and sign up with code TTFP. That's for the Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. Sign up with code TTFP to start a 30-day free trial. All right, let's talk about this hype rest thing again. I've had a good number of people reach out. The guns should be on the way to those people, and I'm very excited for them to get them. Like I said, I've liked my Hyperice Hypervolt Go massage gun way more than I expected. So much I bought two of them. I also have their little vibrating sphere thing. I have their vibrating foam roller, or the vibrating roller. It's not really foam. It's pretty dense, pretty awesome. But if you're not familiar with the details of this offer, here they are. They want in the fire service. So they came to me and asked if I would help them roll out as many products as possible to fire departments, and they would support the show. Here's the deal. If you reach out to me and say, hey, I would like a free massage gun for my fire department, I'm going to send you a code. It's going to send you to a scheduling link, and you're just going to schedule a 5-minute call with Hyperice. They just want information on the fire service, how they can better position themselves, how they can get more of their stuff out to more firefighters. After that, they're going to send you a free trial, a 60-day trial of their Hypervolt Go 2 massage gun. Now, there is a deadline of this of December 31st, so if you're thinking about doing it, get on it. But you get yourself a free Hyperice Hypervolt Go 2 massage gun for your department. And that's it. I mean, if there was any more strings than that attached, I wouldn't be telling you about it. I like the company, and that's why I'm passing this deal along to you guys. So email me, 4thshiftfit, number 4th shiftfit at gmail.com, or reach out on Instagram. It's at 4th, number 4th, 4th shift fitness. Let me know you're interested, and get yourself a Hypervolt Go 2 massage gun for your department. Here comes the intro. Skip forward 30 seconds if you want to get right to the episode. This is the Tailboard Talk podcast, the best health, wellness, and lifestyle resource for the fire service. We're using stories, lessons, and tips from the front lines to give a realistic view of what the job can do to us and how we can make it out alive. I'm Chris Morella, a firefighter since 03, medic since 05, full-time since 08, and promoted to lieutenant in 20. I'm also a personal trainer and strength coach, and I'm here to give you the best information and host the best discussions to make us capable and durable, both on the job and away from it. So grab a heater, steal some fancy creamer from First Shift, and let's go chat. Oh my God. So did you listen to the last one?
No. I haven't listened to since Patrick's.
Okay. You and a lot of people. There was a sharp fall off after him. Let me look here.
It's only because I just haven't had the time to really sit down and listen a bunch.
This is the most depressing season of content stuff. The past 2 years, in October to November, everything dies, which is really demoralizing sometimes. I remember talking last year to a few people, and I was like, what is going on? Everything is tanking. All my social media stuff is going down. The podcast is going down. And they're like, yeah, mine too. The click-through rate and the opening rate on email campaigns goes down by 30% towards the end of the year because nobody has time for that shit.
Yeah.
But on the not producer, whatever, creator side of it, you're like, what the fuck is happening here? This does not feel good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had Molly Jones, and then Joe Galley, and then Patrick, and that was September 28th was Patrick.
Yeah. And
then me and Kurt did one where we joked about the cliff that we were approaching with listenership, and then we fell the fuck off it. Yeah. Now it's
reality
rough.
check.
Yeah, it's rough. So good news is you're going to be the high point of the last 2 months.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Fun.
Yeah. How long have you been in El?
It's been a year and 4 months.
Do you feel like it's been a year and 4 months?
No.
Do you feel like it's been 10 years?
Not quite 10 years, but definitely more than that short period of time.
Yeah.
So maybe 5 years.
Is it because of the probationary period? Is that it's intensive, right? There's a lot of
So intensive, but I just feel like relationships that I've built with the people over the last year have felt like we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
So it just is like a natural, I don't know, way of, yeah. So.
Well, it's a bigger department, right? So you're going to have probably more people to mesh with compared to like a department of 20 or 30 where you're like, well, this is it. If these 10 guys don't like me or people don't like me, like that's a third.
Yeah.
So you have much more odds of people to get along with, right?
Yeah. The other aspect of it feeling like it's been longer than it has and that I've built these relationships is that we have so many more females on the department than I've ever experienced anywhere else. And so that in itself has just helped to make bonds and just feel more at home with people in ways that you can connect and on different levels.
Well, that's a more recent thing too. I mean, with your class and the two
definitely.
after it, right?
Yeah.
2 after it?
There's
and 1 before you.
Yeah. And so in the last year and a half, there's been 3 females hired, which is crazy since there's 8 on the department in total.
So that's going to be another thing. Katie wants me to talk to you, Shannon, Megan, and kind of get like a perspective on like, why the fuck would you want to do this? Like, what are you guys thinking? Like, what?
Well, for me, it was just like, this is just what I was going to do. I started when I was 16, like on a volunteer department. And it was one of those things that was like, hey, try this out. See if you like it. Like our Explorer program.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, why wouldn't I do this, And then my career took some different paths and had children and whatnot and a family. But at the end of the day, like, I couldn't see myself really doing anything else.
So let's talk about that fateful morning. It wasn't fateful. It was good, right?
It was great. Well, I do feel bad for, the people that lost their house or their cats. But
I think they found a majority of the cats. I think,
I don't know. But they were very concerned about their cats.
Yeah.
So, but great experience for me.
Yeah. So what do you remember first when you think of that? Like not even sequentially, but like when you think of that whole incident, what do you think of first?
Oh, there's so much that I think
what just popped in your head?
Just in general, like sitting on the porch with fire coming around the side of the porch from that D side and me trying to like get my mask on and everything and just feeling the heat and the flames and being within 4 feet of it that's right there, like memorable. Yeah. That I'll always remember that feeling, that picture of it, everything.
And then was that like, did you blank at that moment of like, what do I do next?
No, literally in the moment I was like, holy shit, this is real. This is really happening. Oh my gosh. Like reality check, slapped me across the face, you know? Then I was just excited to go.
Good. And then, do you remember what happened right after that?
Yeah. So
luckily, I should just say, luckily on this fire, we weren't together. We were in the same station for this fire.
Yeah.
And I was on the ambulance, and you were on the back of the Quint. Mm-hmm. I think it was a Quint at the time, right? Yeah. And so I got a lot of interaction with you on your first fire, thankfully, which was fun, which was fun for me. So yeah, right after you felt that, and you were told to do something else, that's when I came into your life. And
so then so we had initially taken the hose up to the front door because that's where we were going to go, and then I put all my stuff on because I was ready to go in. Like I didn't want to be slow, right? And my officer would be like, hey, what are you waiting for?
And he's aggressive.
Yes, which is perfect. Like I love that. And so then they were like, hit it from the outside. So that's when I came over to the side window, the basement window, and you were like, do some damage. So I just...
Because you were so far back from the window.
Yes, I was.
You were
it was like
the street.
So, it was like, oh my gosh, there's all this fire blowing out the window.
So it was a bungalow, a story and a half, and we pulled up and we beat you guys out the door because it's just the two of us. We were out the door fast. So we got there a half a block ahead of you guys, and there was radio traffic. I was kind of trampled on. There was fire coming from the basement on the D side, on the AD corner, from the basement window, and it was blowing out to the point where it was up to the or the gutter line and going into the soffit there.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we pulled up to. So originally, you guys were going to go in the front door, and Kevin and I went to the side and started kind of doing a half 360 for the other half of it, and came back and kind of scouted out the back door for you guys and forced that. And then that's when I met you in the driveway, and I knew what you were trying to do, but you basically came off the porch and stood I maybe 20 feet back from the corner of the house, and we're kind of trying to put water through it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is going to be a fun moment. So I remember grabbing you and pulling you and the hose forward and basically putting you within like 2 feet of the window, and then telling you to get in there and put the fire out. And this is where we're going to make a difference, not back in the driveway. And you're like, okay. I was like, stop pulling me. But it was fun to get you in there, because it's so valuable, because if you get a little bit of that taste on the outside when you're brand new at it, and you get a little bit hot on the outside, then it's not such a shock when you're on the inside, right? So I wanted to get you like in, basically put your face in the fire for a second, to get the shock out of the way, and then you could go in. And then it was a tough experience all around, right? So we get past that part of it. You darken it down from the outside, and then you went inside, right?
Yeah.
Which was just a monster.
Yes. So by darkening it down on the outside, when we went inside, it felt calm, like nothing like it was on the outside. So when we went in the front door, it was just hazy. I mean, there was a good amount of smoke, but you could pretty well see in front. Like we could see the kitchen. And so when we got to the back of the house, the stairs to the basement were off of the kitchen, and there was an exterior door there on the seaside that we probably could have pulled the line and gone in through that way, and it would have been a little bit easier. And actually they brought the second line there, and we grabbed the second line and went down with that. But once you got in the basement, it was super smoky. You couldn't see anything in front of you. I remember being up Lieutenant's ass, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I kept bumping it. And he's like, no, it's fine. Like, you couldn't see fire. You couldn't feel the heat from it. It was like it was just magically gone. And that was all because what we realized was the basement was all subdivided with a bedroom and a closet and a bathroom, and they had put up cheap wood paneling to make these rooms. And so the fire hadn't blown out from there, and it wasn't in the main body of the basement yet.
Right.
So we actually just sat there for a little bit, and he was like, listen, just stop talking, don't breathe, listen for the fire. And I was like, okay. And in that moment, because before we even got there, and it was coming in his basement fire, listening to dispatch or whatever else, and we pull up and you see it blowing out of the basement, a little pucker factor in me happened, because I was like, holy shit, basement fires are dangerous. There's a huge chance of the floor going, or there already being a hole if this thing is ripping out of the house already. So going down into the basement, I felt extremely calm, though, because it was just the energy from the officer I was with was just like, hey, we're just going to punch this fire in the face and it's going to be fine. And no worries. He was so calm. So sitting there and listening for the fire, it was like a moment of just peace. I can't even explain it. But it was an ass kicker. The fire was hidden, and it took a while to find it. And then we ended up teaming up. I got moved to ambulance 1 crew.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
It was tough. What was on fire was actually a closet.
Yeah.
But it was like a 6x8 closet. That was just a big storage pile room.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things of like hitting it from the outside was good, because it probably slowed down a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was impinging on everything on the outside of it. But yeah, it'll definitely make everything way more difficult on the inside. From the look of it, though, we thought we'll go in and we know where it is, in this corner. But finding that corner was extremely difficult.
Extremely difficult, yeah.
And I felt bad because you guys came out, and I knew everybody was tired, and Kevin and I were basically babysitting that corner with the third line, and then we were venting the attic. We were just kind of doing outside stuff as an auxiliary company, and I felt bad because you guys came out, and I was like, I'm putting you right back in. Like, you guys are going right back in.
That's literally what happened.
Because you know exactly where you're going now. There's only one room you haven't been to.
Yeah.
And at that point, I threw a flashlight in the window for you guys to find it. I'm like, just go back and just make it 10 more feet inside that window.
Yeah.
And I think you guys did find it then.
Yeah. So the lieutenant ended up, he's like, it's got to be over here. And so he actually was able to punch through a portion of the door, quote unquote,
Right.
and realized then that, hey, we had a closet. And because of the way the door was swinging, he was trying to push me in because I was on the nozzle.
Yeah.
So he's trying to shove me into this closet. And I was like pinned a little bit between the hose line and the door. And he's like, get in there. And then you're screaming from the outside.
Like, get in here.
Yeah, get in there. So eventually I did make it around the little bit of corner because I had to get in and go to the left of it to hit it. So, but it was frustrating.
It wasn't frustrating. It was challenging because I'm like, all you have to do is get 3 feet inside this room and look to the left, and it's all right there because it was running up the void space at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, him and I were both like, would you just get in this room already so we can get over this?
Yeah.
Now in the attic was another issue altogether.
Oh yeah, that was. So how I said like the pucker factor of the basement fire. So then we get to the attic and the officer's in front of me. I have the nozzle. You and Kevin were behind.
Yeah.
And it was, you got up there and it's pitch black. Like we had the tick. You couldn't see shit.
Yeah.
It just was hot.
Right.
And so, but then the heat got so intense and Kick saying, hey, hit the ceiling. And it was that moment of when I opened the nozzle and the water hit the ceiling and nothing came back down that I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is real. This is how flashovers happen. Like, this is all the shit that I learned. And I was still on probation. So it was all the stuff that I learned in academy that was, and throughout the year, that was coming true. Like all the textbook stuff. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a compression issue. So the construction of that attic was something that we couldn't figure out. Nobody could really figure out because when Quint 2 was originally inside, they were pushing to the attic with a line. Mm-hmm. And we were doing a coordinated attack on the attic. So they called for ventilation. I went up and vented the dormers. And I called that it was clear and for them to start hitting it because I had fire showing from the dormer then when I vented it. And they're like, there's nothing up here to hit. And then everybody was like, whoa. Like, what? Oh, geez. So we're like, is this dormer in a knee wall? Like, is this dormer, where is this fire then?
Yeah.
So the construction of the roof was a little bit interesting because the people in the house said the attic wasn't finished. Like, that's not a finished attic. The kids go up there and play, but there's no rooms up there, right? Afterwards, we find out that it's called like a cross gable roof or something like that. I can't remember so from the roof, it looks like a plus sign. From the sky, it looks like a plus sign, the roof layout, right?
Yeah.
And when they're building these trusses and they put it all together, the sheeting overlaps a certain amount on each edge of the plus sign. And then should you put a door up on one of those openings that's only 36 inches wide to begin with, then it creates a compartment in there. And so what we thought originally was knee walls was actually just this strange construction. And they also built dormers later on, and they also did section off part of it later on. So from the A and the D side, there was fire showing everywhere.
Yeah.
And in the attic, there was nothing happening because it was sectioned off.
Yep.
So when we were tasked to go up in the attic, they married us up. We went up. Engine 3 came down. They're like, it's clear. You guys aren't going to find much up there. And they went out front, and somebody had said, hey, we're not going to be able to get this fire from the attic. We should probably just work on opening it up from the outside and hitting it. That was when we were going up into the attic.
Yeah.
So I was third in line. I gave my tick to your lieutenant, or I put on the ledge because he was waist high at the floor level.
Yes.
And you were like neck high at the floor level with the line, right? And then I put the tick up on the ledge so you guys could see it and what was going on. And it went from like decent and hot, and then not okay.
Yes.
And to the point where like I pulled you. I remember yelling, trying not to sound excited, but yelling like, get back to the stairwell.
Yeah.
Come back here. And I remember pulling you down and then essentially pulling your lieutenant down as he was baseball sliding down the stairs.
Yes.
And I knew we were in trouble because I was like, hey man, are you okay? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you got to go. We got to get out of this house.
Yeah.
And because I don't know what's going on.
I think that's when he had to take a break. He had a little timeout.
There were some breaks. Yeah. Well, you guys were on your third working bottle.
Yeah.
And then that happened. And I remember being in the yard with you and telling you, like, if that ever happens to you again while you're on this job, like, that is not okay. Like
Yeah.
what you just experienced up there, and you were like, that was amazing. I'm like, that was so fucking not amazing. Like that was the stuff that people read about in fucking magazine articles 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Like that was not okay. And you're right though. So the timing was bad on that because it wasn't flash overheat. It was steam and just combustion heat.
Yeah.
That was pushed through that opening and pressurized and then forced back on us. But
Yeah.
I remember Brian and I trying to explain exactly like how bad that was. And I think it was landing at the time when we were trying to explain it to you, like how dire that was.
Yeah.
But you're also like so jacked up.
I was so jacked. My adrenaline rush was so high. When we got back to the station afterwards and like showered and, put all the stuff back,
Yeah.
I literally was sitting at the table and I had this huge adrenaline dump from that. And I just remember staring and I felt so drained. And everyone's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, fine. I'm just so exhausted because my adrenaline had been so high that day from the first thing to the last thing. And then it just all decompressed from me.
Yeah. Then you're just exhausted the rest of the day. And
So exhausted.
did you go take a nap that day?
I totally did. Yes. It was like a 2-hour nap.
You asked me like, "Aren't you going to nap?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm okay with that." And you're like, "I feel so tired." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were two big lessons in that. I mean, besides it being your first fire and just exciting in general, that was a memorable thing for several different reasons. Mm-hmm. Not only do you have the heat history of an actual, did you sit in like the flashover simulator in the academy or anything like that?
No.
So that was it.
Yeah.
So I haven't sat, I've seen it. I've never sat inside of it.
Yeah.
It's just not, I haven't had the opportunity to when we've done our MABIS training. But that was as close to bad news time as I've ever come. And talking to Brian too, he's like, "No, that was it. Like that's alarm bells are going off and something in your brain is like panicking time."
Yeah. Well, and for me, like I thought it was so awesome, not because like of the danger aspect, but the experience aspect, because you talk about it all the time. People try to describe what it feels like to you or how it's going to be when you open the nozzle, whatever it is. And then it's like, holy shit, you get to experience it firsthand, which not super awesome, but awesome in the sense too, because now I can take that experience and take it with me the rest of my career.
Yeah. Yeah. And, our chief broke it down however many months ago when he had his talks. And for a bigger department, what do you say? Like there's 60 to 80 like working fires a year, like confirmed, several lines off.
Yeah.
Working fires. So your odds of getting that are relatively low. Like for you to be first in to working fire, because we have 7 stations and 3 shifts, it's pretty low for that to happen. So yeah, you might have to carry that lesson with you for years until you get that opportunity again.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's, like you said, it's hard to replicate. Like if you didn't have that, if you're a second or third in, and you're just mopping up, you're on the second line and you're pushing through the basement where you've already gone, where someone else has already gone.
Yeah.
That's not the same as being.
Oh, definitely not.
Forging the path through the basement.
Yes.
And trying to figure it out through 6 inches of water.
Yeah.
Later on in the call, right? So.
Yeah.
But what were your what have you carried with it? Like, you think back on the lessons that pop in your head first?
Never get excited. So obviously once I got off the Quint, I felt super confident. So as you know, the Quint setup, the pre-connects are a little bit different because you have to pull a certain pre-connect from a certain side. So I had already looked over that first thing in the morning because I get there super early and I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. So felt super confident with that. But like I said, it was that little pucker factor. So just staying calm overall, because I actually had a moment right after I pulled the line. I had that moment sitting on the porch with the fire 4 feet away from me, coming around and feeling the heat, that I was like, holy shit, this is real. Like, and my adrenaline kicked up real high. And it was that moment where I actually fumbled, like with my helmet, with my mask. And I realized that I hadn't flaked out my line. The lieutenant yells at me, "Flake out your line." And I was like, oh, shoot, like you missed that one step because you get too anxious or whatever. So thank God the engineer was really good that day and he fixed it all. And he's like, "Hey, just take your time, get your stuff on." So everybody else around me was so calm and just knew exactly what to do. So that right there is the takeaway for me on any incident in general, but especially like a major structure fire that could have potential for, falling through a floor or a flashover, and just staying calm and composed so that you can, navigate through all the little hiccups that are going to happen at any fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great one. It's hard to make that transition though, like, cause you've been on ambulance calls and people get excited on those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, this is nothing to be excited about.
Yeah.
We have the tools for this, and we've seen this before and we know what to do. And it's incredible how little that transfers over sometimes to other stuff when you're like, I know I've been stressed out before, and I know I've been anxious and excited and like, worked up over calls before, but this is a totally different atmosphere, and now I feel it all over again. And but then you can quickly, if you're with that crew or with that resource, then you can kind of revert back to like, oh, we're just working hard. Like this is just another problem to solve, and I'm going to work really hard, and I have all the tools.
Yes. And
I know the resources around me, so I'm not just like, it's not all up to me, and I don't have to make stuff up as I go. You can fall back into that, but that transition can be really hard to make.
Yeah. And just remembering, like, I always try when I have to compose myself. So I might feel all the adrenaline, anxiety inside, but you have to be that duck on the water that's super calm and collected, and inside, maybe internally, you're like, holy shit, this is like a big deal, this is really bad, whatever, and you need to move fast to do stuff, but keeping that calm demeanor of just like, we're gonna take it here, and keeping it internalized so that it doesn't flow on to other people too. And
I will say you're lucky too. Your lieutenant does some really good stuff. Like, he's very aggressive, right? And so him and I work really well together. You're not lucky. I'm not saying you're lucky because I was there. He was there. I'm saying we operate in a pretty aggressive way.
Yeah.
That we don't leave a lot of guesswork to what we want people to do. Like he was telling me. So this may sound kind of foreign to people. He expects me to be command on the ambulance of an incident of a fire. Yeah. Because I'm a lieutenant just like he is, and why would he be command at this thing if he's going to be pulling lines and making entry? I'm supposed to be IRIC. I can get a better view of the thing. I have more or less hands off. I have more time than he does to look at things. So he expects me to be command at those incidents. He trusts me to do a 360 for him while he's softening the building or getting you lined up. He trusts that I can come back and tell him where the doors are and what's going on the backside of this house. And so that's a unique kind of thing. A lot of times you'll be in a station where there's one lieutenant and maybe an acting paramedic or a paramedic in charge for the day, and they're not able to or tasked with doing that. So that fire was nice because everything worked really quickly and really aggressively. Yeah. And that was almost best case scenario for like a first fire because there was no guesswork.
Literally, if I have said this multiple times, if I had a different crew or a different officer, it would have been a totally different experience and maybe outcome. I don't even know, but it definitely would have been a different experience for me. And I'm super grateful that I had the crew that I did because it just...
It might have been better. It might have been better too. Let's not say like, it didn't go perfect.
It's true. It didn't go perfect, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you make it through the rest of the shift, right?
Yeah. Exhausted.
When did you call Eric, or did you call him? Did you give Eric the full story the next day then? Did you like...
Oh, for sure. I
have
probably
to sit him
gave
down
him
and be
that.
like...
Yeah, I probably told him that whole story that night. I don't really remember, but yeah, it was one of those things that I kept, anybody I saw, guess what happened at work? I said, and he's so great, but I think he also hates when I come home and I talk about work, because like when I come home, he just wants to have our normal, leave work at work sort of thing. Yeah. And, but he was a super good sport about that one and just let me have my moment because he knew it was a big deal. Yeah. So
is he? Yeah. So did that make it more real for him? Like you're in this position now, like you're in this job now, right?
So he loves me, right? So he's always worried about me, and especially in this high risk job that we have, but. For him, he always worries about me, but he has seen over the last year, almost year and a half, that there's so many people here that have my back and are protective in a sense of, they're going to watch out for me. So it puts his mind a little more at ease knowing that I have good officers and I have good battalion chiefs and people that aren't, going to be like, hey, go into that burning building that doesn't look safe, you know? So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. How do you tell do you tell your kids?
I give my kids majority of the story. Sometimes they leave out little details if they're a little too gruesome. But yeah, I for sure tell my kids all that. Plus, I'm also the mom that's like, you got to tell me you love me every day because we never know when it's the last.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
You don't tell them that. You think that, right? You tell them like, I might not see you tomorrow.
No, I totally tell my kids.
Oh my God.
Don't judge me on my parenting.
I won't, but you're a psycho. No, I
also have a 10-year-old that's like wants nothing to do with. I mean, he's slowly going into this phase. Yeah,
it's leverage.
Yes, totally.
Nice.
Like, hey, you should enjoy the time you have with me right now. Like, hang out with me. I'm still cool and important.
That's a better leverage.
Yeah,
I'm going to go to work and fall through a floor. Like Nathan, I mean, he's 3.5, but we'll see obviously Station 7's right here, but we'll see an ambulance or engine driving around. He'll be like, is that for an emergency? I'm like, yeah. And Katie's like, what does Dad do? He's like, gives people the Band-Aids. I'm like, goddamn right, dude. Like, stick to that, buddy. He's like, he goes to broken houses. I'm like, sweet. That's all you need to know. I'm a plumber. I'm a plumber with Band-Aids. It's fine with me.
I guess I've just always been super real and raw with my kids.
Yeah.
Just because that's how I kind of grew up too. Like my mom was a nurse and my dad was a volunteer firefighter. So, and living in a small town, like you just got exposed to things right away.
Yeah.
Like people didn't hide anything.
Yeah.
So it was just, I'm like, well, I'll just tell them the real deal. And then they won't, if they have questions, I can just be completely honest with them. And
well, sir, I could certainly see that happening as Nathan gets older, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not telling like my 3-year-olds, like, hey, I'm gonna go to work and die tomorrow. Like,
maybe,
that's not, maybe.
So stay up and don't think about that.
Yeah, make sure you kiss me and tell me you love me. No, but as the kids get older, like I sugarcoat it less for them because reality is reality, and they're exposed to so much now in their young lives. With school shootings and intruder drills and all that stuff. So why not be the source that can tell them in a way that I want to tell them to keep it real with them, and they're not going to some other person asking the same questions and getting a different answer with fluff, and then something happens and reality check and they're like, but this isn't how they said it was going to be. So
I just had the opposite side of the spectrum. Other than the lens, the other day with Nathan, we went to South Elgin for a tour with his preschool. Mm-hmm. And so they do like the dress the guy up and come talk to me. And here's how I sound through my mask and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was listening to that lesson. I was like, yeah, you got to go. Firemen are going to help you. They're going to help you out. And at the same time, I was like, I felt like I needed to tell him like all that stuff he's putting on is to keep Daddy safe too. Like I'll be okay if there's a fire, I wear all that stuff, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's never something I thought. That's not something most people have to explain to their kids. Like, tell them go to the firefighter because they're going to help you out. You don't have to say they're going to help you out. And also, that's what Dad does. And Dad's wearing all that stuff, and I'll be okay. Like that's going to protect me, and I'll be fine. And he was like, there was a little like disconnect there of like he was looking at this person doing that and looking at me of like, is this what are you doing? Where's the Band-Aids? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay, buddy. It's going to be all right. So it was a strange moment of like.
Yeah.
I never anticipated, because I never think about it, having to explain to them that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
That this is their worst case scenario, but I'll be okay doing that for someone else.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a weird moment.
So when I was in academy, we had donning and doffing drills, and it was highly encouraged for us to practice outside of academy because we were timed on it, right? So you wanted to be the fastest. You had to get it under a minute or whatever. And so there was one day, it was super nice out, and I was like, I'm going to go on the deck and I'm going to do this donning and doffing drill. And the kids sat out there with me and they were just mesmerized watching, like Mom's putting all this stuff on.
Yeah.
And then same thing, I like talk to them and I let them, realize like, hey, this is what protects me. So like 3 and she was 5 at that point. Like that is, in their mind, they can see like, okay, Mom's going to be safe.
Yeah.
But like my 10-year-old, he watches the news with my husband. So like he'll see, fireman dies in, basement fire or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's why with him, like I have to be more real and I can't, but he gets it too. He's
Why are you guys
super
even watching the
smart.
news anymore? That's a whole different problem.
Because
like, where do you find the news? Even first of all,
WGN.
It's on YouTube.
Like,
what do you watch?
Like Farmer 5, as I used to call it. So, but serious, like, yeah, I just am super, super real because everywhere else is.
I like it. I mean, we have to have several more conversations, probably more about parenting and women in the fire service and all that stuff. I mean, we just bled right into other tangents there. But would you rather give a closing thing or like a final word to? It's like, I hate saying like you should give a final word to females because you're a female, right? It's like, well, maybe other people need to hear that shit too. Like, I don't want to pigeonhole you into being a female firefighter, right? Because that's kind of
but
goofy.
it is a huge identity for women in the fire. Like, talking to Joe Galley about this, you know, I got put on this diversity committee or asked to be a part of it. And I looked at myself, I'm like, I'm not diverse. Like, right. I'm a Caucasian, not, you know, but he's like, no, you're a female. And I was like, but what about, you know, the Hispanic man? And he's like, he's still a man. Like,
sure.
You know, so he's like, you're kind of one of the standalone type diversity, I guess you could, you know, in the end, they're all men. In the end, I might be Caucasian, but I'm a female. Right. So it's different. And so that kind of sunk with me. And I was like, I get it. Because I never thought of myself as really different. But, you know, being a female, sometimes I've had to feel like I've had to prove myself because of certain people that I'm around or just dynamics of the department or shift that I was on, whatever. So, but yeah, just so for a female, it's totally different, but you know, we have our support. So, but final thoughts. So
like that's a whole other episode and topic and everything, right?
Yeah. But final thoughts, just, I guess as a new full-time career firefighter, like this is the best thing that I could career-wise that I could think of doing, whether you're a female, a male. It's definitely, I feel, a niche career, and the experience that you get it, you know, you train for all of this, and until you actually do it and you get that experience, you don't really realize like how all of it plays together. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. My brain is like mush right now.
Yeah, we covered a lot of topics. We covered a lot of stuff.
We did. I'm still thinking about like my parenting skills over here. Like, am I a psycho?
We'll cut that part out because no, the context you put to it justifies what you're talking about.
It's a hell of a lot easier too when you're asking the questions, not having me think of like,
oh,
what do I want to think of closing remarks here? Like, so
you can just say no. It's fine.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So now I have to do like a formal closing.
Because you're gonna edit all this mumbo jumbo out there.
A lot. I mean, like a third of it probably, but it's not gonna be a big deal.
I hope. I was like, I hope a third of it. I'm just mumbling over here.
Nah. It's picking everything up. Don't worry. It's all on the public record.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk again. We'll have to have you and Shannon. How far? You guys are like a couple months apart?
3 months. So she's 3 months ahead of me.
Okay.
But she's newly shop steward of 3, so she would be a great other female to interview that has the executive board
perspective on it.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother. But yeah, we'll get a lot of you guys back on, a lot of you girls back on. Have some more times.
Oh, side note, you can put this in or not. You know what bothers me the most that I've realized is when people say, which I shouldn't share this because now people are going to do it. When they say, you know, like, hey, you guys, and they're like, oh, I mean, girls
and girl,
right? Like, it's
hey,
a general, it's a general, or people will be like fireman. Oh, I'm sorry, firefighter, and I'm like,
I wouldn't say that. I say firewoman.
It's okay,
fire
like
female.
So that's where the whole gender aspect that we were talking about. I talk with my hands, and I have some points. The whole gender aspect. So I always never wanted to be standing out as a female in my early years as a firefighter or in the early years of just getting into this career, because I wanted to blend. I wanted to meld, right?
Yeah.
And I also wanted to show that, hey, I can do the job just as good as the person next to me. But over the course of probably the last couple of years, honestly, I've realized like it's okay to stand out as a female.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to say, hey, there's not a lot of us, and we don't have to blend in. We can be just ourselves. Like we're moms, we're wives, you know, and we can do this job just as good as you.
Yeah.
And other aspects of it is, hey, we also need different fitting gear or, you know, that sort of stuff. So bringing attention to, it's okay. Like I've realized it's okay to bring attention to the fact that we're different, yet we can still do this job. So it's okay to kind of stand up and say, hey, you know, here we are. And that's something that I'm actually am working towards doing more of, and actually have, hopefully, fingers crossed, have some events coming up throughout this next year that include the women that we have on our department, along with introducing it to other women out there in the community that want to do this job, but feel like, oh, I'm a female. Like, I don't want to be in this little community of females when it's a male dominant career and that feels uncomfortable, or I really want to do this, but I don't think I can. And so just being able to be there for those females and support them, I've realized that, hey, this is what I was maybe put here to do. Like, this is why the job led me this way. So, yeah.
Well, good. I'd say that was a better closing thought than the last one.
I know.
That's
so you
probably
should
good.
Use that one.
We'll end it there. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. I think we'll do at least a couple more. This will be good.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.